Hey, Tara here, and I'm coming to you live from my car. I kind of have a busy day today, and I had just a few minutes just to share just a little bit of um, information with you. And never in a million years would I imagine doing a video on grief. But I was going through some of my things from my childhood. Yes, I was a pack rat, and back in high school and college, I didn't go through all of my stuff until much later on. Obviously, it's been well over a decade, more than a decade, obviously, and so almost 2 decades at this point. And so I've taken some time. My dad was kind enough, excuse me, to bring a few boxes up of, or yeah, up of my things. And so I took the time to go ahead and go through some of those boxes, and it really brought up some emotions as I was digging through cards and looking at things that people had written me like back when. And it was kind of cool to reflect, kind of nostalgic in a way, but it was also just really difficult and really challenging to go through. And um, for those of you that don't know, I am a married mom with two daughters, and my second daughter was born 2 years ago, in May. And 2 weeks after my second daughter was born, my mother died unexpectedly. In fact, she had been dealing with some heart conditions and in the hospital while I was in labor. And so this was really difficult and challenging for me because one thing that was really touching, that was supposed to be very touching, was my mom wanting more than anything to be able to come and see our second daughter born in the hospital and help take care of me. But she herself was in the hospital, and so that didn't help me at all. And who knew my baby shower just months before, just a few months before, would be the last time that I actually would ever see my mom alive. I really had no idea that that's what I was facing and what I was looking at. Um, Time is really, really precious with your loved ones, and I'm going to try not to get emotional. But I see so many people just on my social media that are just hurting because they've lost a loved one recently. Some of them have lost their moms. Some of them have lost a dad or a really dear and close family member, or they're on the verge of passing over. And I just felt like some people just needed some comfort and needed some validation. And I just wanted to share a few quick things that really helped me in just overcoming the depression that set in after my mom died super unexpectedly, because I didn't even get a chance. You know, some people at least get a chance to say goodbye or let somebody know that they love them, at least. I did not get that opportunity. I was at a cookout, a get together with my husband's family, and had a conversation with my mom. Never in my imagination would I even think that the next day I would be getting a zillion phone calls on my phone, somebody trying to get a hold of me to let me know that my mom had passed. And at first, I really didn't want to deal with it. I was kind of in denial that there was a situation, that something had transpired and had happened. It took me a really long time to process everything. In fact, I tried to move on as if nothing had happened. Like, I went through all the, emotions that happen when somebody passes. And then just being the mom that I am, life moved on, right? I was wife, I was mom. I had other things going on. I was still working, and I just had this little one. So my hormones were all over the place, and it hadn't even been a couple weeks, and my body's trying to recover, and there was just a lot hitting me, and I went into a spiral of depression for a long time because everybody would tell me, Tara, take the time to process the grief the way that, you need to. Don't be afraid to go behind closed doors and cry. Well, I would try to cry. I would try to get it out here and there. But I just couldn't, I couldn't get it out. You know, no matter how hard I tried, it was just very challenging, very difficult for me to be able to do that. And so I actually almost lost my job, almost lost my marriage, almost lost my kids over it. I was just not in a good place. I really actually had to I was one of those people that had to hit true rock bottom in order to come back out of it. And I needed the help, first of all, of loved ones in order to overcome it. And help from loved ones included, first of all, being willing to ask for help. I'm not somebody that likes to ask for help, but I've learned that help is wisdom, and help can save you. Help is something that gives you hope. And so when you ask somebody for help, it's actually a sign of strength, that you realize that you can't do this thing on your own. And when you process the grief of a loved one, always remember that you cannot process this alone. There's no way to process the grief of a loved one alone. And you can try to make yourself busy and do other things to get your mind off of it, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but you do need time in order to be able to grieve, in order to be able to really process everything. You need to take that time. You need to make room to do those things, because I tried so hard just to move forward and do other things, thinking that, hey, life moves on, it's time for me to move on. But what I quickly found out is that it only delayed the process of grieving for me. It didn't take care of it. And I know everybody's grief cycle is completely different, you know, and you're going to go through a range of emotions. You know, sometimes you're just going to feel really sad. Sometimes you're going to feel super angry. You know, sometimes you're going to laugh at the good times and memories that you had. But don't forget to process. And when you get stuck and you don't know how to communicate your thoughts, you know, just asking somebody to be there with you, even if it's just to listen to you. And you'll want to sometimes isolate, because it's easier than actually having to deal with it. But that's like a form of stuffing. So I encourage you not to isolate and not to do that. And instead, allow somebody to be there with you, even if it's just to make you laugh or tell you a few jokes as you process something. Or maybe they just hold your hand. Maybe they come over and make you dinner that night, because you just, you know, grief is funny that way. You could be living a normal day and a normal life, and then, you know, all of a sudden it just hits really, really hard. And when it hits hard, it's okay to go off. Secondly, and that brings me to my second point, it's okay to go take care of yourself. That's right. Go spend some time, you know, self-care, you know, self-love. Take time out, you know, for a bath, or for, you know, just lighting a candle and having some solidarity, going on a walk, you know, whatever really gives you that peace or that comfort in that time of need. Don't be afraid to go take that time. And that brings me to another point. Don't be afraid, and don't think it's a sign of weakness to gain professional help. We all need help when we're in the middle of a grieving process. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's a friend, it doesn't matter if it's a relative, somebody really close or not so close. Don't be afraid to go and talk to somebody. I didn't want to do that for the longest time, because I felt like I was just paying somebody and to give them my problems. It didn't feel realistic to me. But I encourage you to go and talk to somebody about what that process looks like. Spend some time with them. You know, let them know what's on your mind. Actually, sometimes it can help more when you don't have a biased opinion, or you don't have... Okay, and I'm going inside of our house for a few minutes. I'm actually going to head downstairs, so bear with me for just a quick second. I apologize for this, you guys. My videos don't normally time out like this. At any rate, I'm going to sit down on the couch here and talk with you guys. And so that was like another thing that I just really wanted to... Ooh, this lighting is actually nice. So that's a thing that I really just wanted to encourage you with too. Like, don't be afraid to actually go and talk with somebody professionally. That's where we got cut off. About what's going on in your life, in your situation, because You know, more people understand and want to help you than you think. But sometimes in our own grief and trying to process and understand, we get lost ourselves. So we need somebody to kind of pull us out, and we isolate without realizing sometimes that we're isolating. So being able to get in a place where we can really communicate and talk with somebody that can help us process some of the stuck emotions will allow the emotional process of it to happen, so that way we can start remembering the good things and the good memories that we had with that loved one, with that person. The other thing that really helped was just having a really good support system. I would often ask my friends, you know, please check in with me, you know, every so often, and just make sure that I'm still okay. Make sure that something has not happened to me. Make sure that I'm doing all right, you know, whatever that looked like whatever I needed at that time, at that moment. You know, it was okay to go ahead and ask for that help, to ask for that accountability, more or less. And it did. It held me very accountable. My husband was one of my biggest supports through it. Even though I was very, very lost, I thought I could move on, but I just realized how lost, and the further and the longer I waited, the more unhealthy it manifested. I would just get really overwhelmed, and I'd feel very sleep deprived. And that's another point. Make sure that you're getting sufficient and solid rest. And you may feel like you need to spend extra time resting and sleeping. Don't be afraid to do that. You know, don't be afraid to ask your friends or loved ones or your spouse or a support. If you lost your spouse, you know, whatever, your closest friend, or, you know, just maybe it's like some really good, solid, wise counsel. But don't be afraid to actually say, hey, I need a sounding board, or this is where I'm stuck. Can you help me work through it? And another point, sometimes we inherit things when we lose a loved one, and we can get kind of attached to those memories.